Hi everyone, myself Hibajifi, student, Department of Sociology from E-Content Development Center, Majlis Arts and Science College, Valancheri. Here I am going to discuss about the various steps included in a social research. Through this presentation, you will be able to understand what are the various steps included in a social research. That first of all, we have to discuss what's a social research. A social research is a process consists of formulating and seeking answer to a question in a social world. So this follows various steps and each step in a social research is interconnected. Before starting a social research, we have to select a subject as our problem. This is the first step included in social research, that is formulation of the problem. This involves two steps. Firstly, understand the problem thoroughly, and secondly, phrasing it into operational terms. Like we can discuss it with our colleagues or experts, and examination of literature related to the subject. From all this, we can understand the problem very well. And the researcher can state the problem in the form of a declarative statement or in a form of a question. After formulating the problem, a brief summary should be written down. In academic research, this is called the synopsis. And for getting more knowledge in the field of its interest, an extensive literature survey is needed. That is the second step included in a social research, the extensive literature survey. It creates an awareness in the latest development of its field of interest. And sometimes new hypotheses may be generated by conducting extensive literature survey. The researcher can depend on published and unpublished sources for getting more knowledge. Literature survey has many functions. The major functions of literature survey are: firstly, it brings clarity and focus to the problem under study, and it tells us that if others have used the procedures and methods similar to us. And last but not least, literature survey can broaden our knowledge, which will really help us to conduct our research very well. Like extensive literature survey, there is also experience survey. Both are different because in experience survey, the researcher conduct and collecting information from the people who have practical experience with the problem under study. After completing the extensive literature survey, the researcher has to engage on the development of working hypothesis. That is the third step of a research. Here we have to check what's the hypothesis. Hypothesis means it's a possible answer to a question under study. So a working hypothesis means it is a tentative assumption made to be tested. That is, in the starting of the research, the researcher makes a hypothesis is sound based on his own feelings, interests, thoughts and interpretation. This is called the working hypothesis. And a hypothesis acts as a guide to the researcher for collecting relevant facts related to the subject. Also, the hypothesis indicate the type of data required and what are the methods of data analysis to be used. After developing the working hypothesis, the researcher has to engage on the most important step in a social research, that is the preparation of the research design. The research design means it's the conceptual structure within which the research is to be conducted. And preparation of the research design consider the following things: that's objective of the study, method of data collection like primary data collected or secondary data collected, and source of information. In this, it is involved the selection of the sample, and tool of data collection and data analysis. Data analysis means the decision regarding where qualitative or quantitative data analysis to be followed. There can be four types of research design, namely descriptive research design, diagnostic research design, experimental research design and explorative research design. After preparing the research design, the fifth step of a research is the determination of the sample size. All the items under consideration of the research constitute the population or the universe of the research. Practically, it is not possible to include all the items in the research because of several reasons. So, the researcher selects a small portion of it. It is called the sample. A sample is the segment of the population selected to represent the population as whole. Designing the sample calls for three decisions: who will be surveyed, how many people will be surveyed, how should the sample be chosen. And broadly, there are two approaches to sample design: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. We have already discussed it in our previous video, sampling techniques. After determining the sample size, the researcher has to collect data from the sample. This is the sixth step of the research, that is data collection. There are two types of data: primary data and secondary data. Primary data means the data that we are collecting for the first time, where secondary data It is the data that have been already collected and analyzed by someone else. Primary data can be collected through experiment or surveys. Observation, interview, use of questionnaire and schedule are the another technique used for collecting data in survey method. Libraries are a rich storage of secondary data. After collecting the data, the researcher has to engage on the analysis of the data. It involves closely related operations like classification of the data, tabulation, coding, and deriving statistical inferences. After tabulations, various percentages can be calculated with the use of statistical formulae. After analyzing the data, the researcher can check whether his hypothesis is proven or not. This is the 8th step of the research, hypothesis testing. If the research is conducted with a hypothesis, then it is tested based on the analysis of the data, and the testing result is either accepting the hypothesis or rejecting it. If the research is conducted without a hypothesis, the generalization established on the basis of the data can be stated as a hypothesis. If the hypothesis is tested repeatedly, the researcher can move on to generalization and construct a theory out of it. This is the 9th step of a research, that is generalization and interpretation. The explanation that the researcher has about his findings is known as the interpretation, and the process of building a theory from the established facts is known as generalization. This is the main objective of a research. After completing these steps, the researcher has to enter to the final step of the research, that is preparation of the research report. The final stage of any research investigation is the preparation of the report or thesis. The report should generally carry sections like preliminary pages with title, acknowledgement, foreword, list of tables, graphs and charts, followed by main text and the conclusion. The main text of the report is divided into introduction, main body, statement of findings or recommendation, and conclusion. Each and everything included in a report should be objective in style. Presentation of the findings in a written form is the last stage of a research. Introduction, summary of findings, main report, conclusion, appendices, and bibliography are the part of a research. In a simple way, a research itself a record of what has been done and what are the outcomes of the study. These are the various steps included in a social research. In a way, a social research is a journey of 10 steps from the formulation of the problem to the presentation of the research report. Hope you all understand this video. Thanks for watching.